The MoneroTopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Hello.
GM.
How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, we definitely did have some interesting price action the past week. Mostly panic in the streets. I wouldn't call it blood. People haven't gotten to violence just quite yet, but yeah, people are worried. They're clamoring for their alt season. They wonder why Bitcoin hasn't broken to new all-time highs.
The
They
people are
can't
getting
decide if they
impatient.
should. Say what?
The people are getting impatient.
That's right. I mean, everybody gets impatient when it comes to their gains. They want them. They want them hard. They want them fast. They want them now, not tomorrow.
That's what she
But,
said.
you know, who can blame them? Everyone wants to get rich, wants to get retired. And most of all, everyone wants to see their asset go up, but nothing else. Because if everything goes up, you're like, well, everybody else got richer too. And
If
that just means inflation.
everyone's a superhero, nobody will be.
You're special, just like everybody else.
Oh yeah, so if that is everyone's special. Monero Corn tip 10 cents body. It seems like crashes / crises always take longer to unfold than expected. Do you think they could stretch this out another 3 years to give people what they want, and at the end make the people think socialism is the answer to usher in power grab? It's a very elaborate question.
Yes, I would say kind of. Probably 3 years is a bit long in the time horizon, but the whole socialism, freedom, power grab, first by inflation, then by deflation dynamic, you know, that's like their modus operandi, right? You know, and the thing is too, people are dynamic. People are an evolving thing, right? You have new people coming into the markets all the time. You have youngsters getting their college degree. You know, you got people making money, and you know, in terms of like moving into the middle parts of their career, they're saving up a nest egg, etc. And, you know, people get the whole like freedom notion because, I mean, we were taught from childhood, right? The Bill of Rights, etc. So they kind of have to like it's a continual process of ushering in the socialism and then walking it back a little bit, and, you know, and then doing another false flag and doing the power grab. Like it's a never ending thing. And it's something that we need to get comfortable with because it's never going to end. Even in a free society, there will still be people trying to do that. So eternal vigilance, as I believe our fathers, the founding fathers, told us. So I guess with that, let's just go ahead and see what happened with the price. Monero, nothing really happened with the price. I guess we're no longer a stable coin, so maybe we should be happy about that. Everybody celebrate that we're not a stable coin. We are now I guess we're an inflation trending coin. Maybe you could say that we trend up with inflation now, as opposed to being pegged to the US dollar, effectively, accidentally pegged. Yeah, so, okay, anyways, with the chart here, pretty clear what's going on from what we talked about last week. You know, we're basically hanging out here in these upper standard deviations. You guys hopefully remember that I said, listen, this is a bullish structure. Things are setting up nicely here. This does not imply immediate breakout, although it could, right? Chart can do whatever the hell it wants. It doesn't have to listen to me, no matter how many times I tell it what to do. But we still have this like very, very clear, you know, higher lows all along the way for like basically for, what would that be, like 14 months now? We just keep setting higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. And now you can even see these wicks down, like they're wicking into what is already a rising band structure. So yeah, that's a really good sign. But we also talked about last week, said, hey, you know, these bands, especially these longer bands, they've been established for so long. You really need some long-term price action up here before those bands curl up. But these ones are shorter, and that we could see something that looks like this, right? Hell, we could even see something like if there's some big broad crash, you know, hypothetically, like if there's a blood in the streets moment before they run crypto prices towards the upside again, and that could happen even without a macro crash, because this is crypto, guys, and this is what happens. I don't care that it's regulated. I don't care that it's part of the government now and that it's in the stock market and like that doesn't matter. These guys are sneaky bastards, and they have a lot more regulations that they have to sort of get around when it comes to the stock market. They have to do their misdeeds in a much more kind of subtle and hidden manner in these legal gray areas. But crypto is definitely more like the Wild West, and they've still got their complex of exchanges that exist outside of the regulated system, in which they can pull their little tricks and their little dirty misdeeds with the price, and they can liquidate you only to come back up to the upside and make the move that was organically already going to happen. So I'm saying the point of all that is that there's been some panic in the streets lately, and I just want you guys to know, like, there could be liquidation, stop hunt type wicks towards the downside before we get the real upside movement. Again, it's still weird for me to think that this would be the top. Maybe the diminishing returns have kicked in so hard that I'm just totally wrong and I'm about to get trapped at the top, but I don't give a fuck. I'm holding anyways. So yeah, especially with Monero. So yeah, I think a lot of people are of the same mentality, like this general social fabric out there. Like, people aren't going to sell. There might be some panic sellers down there, but right now, expect more like trading liquidation wicks as opposed to true panic selling. The only real way that we get major panic selling is the macro crash notion. 3 years is a bit long. That super chat, it is true that it does seem like these macro crashes take longer to play out, even than I've expected, right? I've kind of expected it to happen a little bit sooner. But then the signs, every week I'm here like, it's coming. The pattern is unfolding, but it's not imminent. So I guess we'll just keep saying that until the signs look like it's imminent. I don't want to be, Chicken Little or whatever every single week, like the macro crash, but the pattern is clear. It's setting up at the same as it's happened before. Anyway, so yeah, Monero actually did quite well in terms of the panic in the streets. Really nothing major here. This looks like just a regular chart to me. Realistically speaking, the rest of crypto looks like a regular chart to me. So I think the panic is a bit oversold, but okay, whatever. Yeah, looking nice there, looking nice. And you'll be able to see the same thing on the XMR BTC price going down into the daily. I guess I take it back. XMR has kind of like held its own lately with Bitcoin. And this is interesting. So let's turn on the wave magic and see what things look like here. I kind of would have expected that. I mean, it did look to me a little bit like Monero's price was ready to move up here to the upper standard deviation levels, but relative to BTC. But Bitcoin had a big dominance bump. So I mean, a lot of alts did crash. We'll take a look at that in a second. Yeah, I mean, this is fine. I guess this is just going to be like, this looks to me like a stabilization kind of thing. Again, if Bitcoin decides to pump to new whatever, this chart's going to come back towards the downside. I don't expect this to set new, like at this point, I don't expect this chart to crash down further. I think some stabilization has been reached there. But price has a way of making you look foolish sometimes. Yeah, KuCoin has been towards the upside on relative to Kraken. Again, these are price divergences relative to Kraken. Nothing too suspicious here. I guess that makes some kind of sense. We're seeing a lot of like upwards divergences here on the price divergences relative to Kraken, and maybe that does signal a little bit of the continued sort of support that Monero has had. If you want to see a relative price that can make you smile, and that does seem to be going towards the upper standard deviation bands, as Monero versus Ethereum. I'm not even sure it's that relevant anymore to look at Monero versus Ethereum, but there are atomic swaps that I don't think anyone uses. But yeah, we do. There are atomic swaps to Ethereum, so maybe this is slightly relevant. I mean, I guess I still probably kind of expect this to want to move towards the upside there. So that is nice. That is nice to see Monero actually recovering from the big crash. In fact, Monero relative to Ethereum has completely recovered its relative price to before the Binance delisting. So I mean, that's positive, right? Ethereum is like, if Bitcoin is daddy, Ethereum is mommy. So maybe Ripple is about to replace Ethereum as mommy. I don't know what the government bureaucrats and our lovely, fabulous, fantastic, beautiful new president intends to do with Ripple. Maybe that story is more of a sold than anything else. Okay, let's take a look at the privacy coins. Sphero is not doing so great. It's been part of the loss and tragedy that has happened in the past 7 days. Pirate Chain also experiencing loss and tragedy. Guys, with the way that Pirate Chain is set up, I'm almost shocked that it has even maintained what it has at this moment. this doesn't look good. This looks like potentially the beginning of breakdown. That is definitely a wick towards the downside. So maybe it's just a liquidation wick, but man, are there really that many people trading Pirate Chain on the exchanges? Is the volume that large that it's useful to do liquidation wicks? I guess in aggregate, you could say that about every coin, but taken together in aggregate, maybe you wick all coins. So perhaps this is just an artifact of that, or perhaps it's an artifact of the massive amount of coins that were mined before people really knew what Pirate Chain was, and that steep emission curve and the ASICs, etc. So yeah, I mean, at this point, it would not be unreasonable to watch this thing end up down here, right, at the very, very long-term lower standard deviation bands. At that point, if you were to touch this line, depending on what the rest of the crypto situation is doing, I would say that's actually probably a buy, because let's do a measurement here. Measurement, hypothetically, if you were to pick up Pirate Chain at that level, and it merely just got back to like here or something, you're looking at a 4x, right? Like, you could put a little bit of cash on a Pirate Chain at these kinds of levels, and even hope that in a big bull market, you could be shooting for something much higher, right? You could be shooting for a 10x there. I'm not telling anyone to go buy Pirate Chain. I'm not telling anyone to use it. I'm just saying, hey, if you like to trade privacy shitcoins, then that might be an opportunity to look for, right? You might set a buy on an exchange at 0.06 or whatever. Obviously, we want to look at Xano. Everybody has been talking about Xano for the past couple months. So yeah, Xano continues to have this like big sell-off event again. I think the market is kind of like, wait, what? There was a big pre-mine and et cetera, et cetera. And I think people kind of lost a bit of confidence. This would be a spot to actually look and say, okay, maybe you could take a long here. I'm afraid we might actually be able to influence the Xano price here on the price report. So, if I have some amazing prowess of prediction on Xano, like just know that, I could be creating my own reality here, right? Like, it's possible that we could be manifesting this into the ether, and not the Ethereum ether, but like the price gods ether. Anyways, yeah, again, don't take it too seriously here. But yeah, Xano, this like on the Wave Magic technical tea leaves, you would look at this and say, yeah, that's actually potentially a bottoming pattern. But again, if the rest of the crypto market crashes and there's a big wick down, I would more so expect Xano to find a bottom at this spot right here first. So it could do this or something, or you could see a big fucking wick like that. Depends on what the crypto market's going to do. I don't necessarily have big opinions on if we're going to get a wick down first before we go up. But again, I still think in the broader sense, like I still think it's bullish. I still think overall, like there's upside. Most people are just going to hodl. Good, just hodl. That's easier than trying to trade this shit. Zcash has done what it does, and it is finding its way back down to the downside towards the bottom. In fact, you'll notice some significant lulls here on this chart. Man, I just have to keep scrolling back. Let's go. Let's make sure I'm on the right. Let's go to crypto, because this the crypto colon, and then the ticker that gives you like the full price history typically. So, although I guess we were basically already on the full price history. But yeah, I mean, look at this, guys. Like super lulls. This thing is within about a 2x, about 50%. 40% of its effective all-time bottom or all-time lows. Yeah, because I mean that's what happens when you have a corporately mined coin that still has a 20% founders reward, and is the corporate privacy coin that's listed on the exchanges that just can't stand to list Monero because it's too private. It's too good.
Zcash still has the dev tax?
Maybe they got rid of it. I don't know. I just don't pay attention to them anymore. I just don't think they're relevant. Like, they lost. It's over. Like, they're not coming back. No one wants the corporate coin. Like, there's the reputation loss is too great. They're not going to be the privacy coin. It's just that simple. Maybe I think they still have it. Maybe that would be, if someone wants to look that up and inform us here, that would be great.
It is funny how they kind of round tripped just a few months ago, like to where they are now.
Yeah. If you really want to understand the power of Zcash as a corporate privacy coin versus something like Pirate Chain, which is like the, it's more like private. I don't want to call it a scam, but it's easy. It's more like it's private chicanery, we'll just say, versus the corporate chicanery. You look at Pirate Chain and you're getting, what are you getting here? 142%, maybe 200%. Whereas on Zcash, you're really from the bottom. You're getting significantly more gains, right? You're getting 300% there. But they're both still round tripping. They're both still going to behave the same because, the people behind it are doing the same thing, right? They're slowly selling off their stack. They're milking it for everything they can. They're distracting investment potential. Bro, I guarantee you there's a shitload of Zcash holders that are just like, they've been hodling for a long time and they're just going to continue to hodl. It's a mentality that I've seen in myself. Sometimes I buy something and I'm like, listen, if this thing just dies, whatever, I'll just hold it forever, I guess. I'm not even going to bother selling it. I've already lost 80%. I'm going to recoup 20%. It's just like, it's not, unless you're really like scavenging for pennies under the sofa, you're probably, for the most part, you're just going to be like, oh, whatever, maybe it'll come back at some point, or maybe some new big glorious bull run happens and I can get out at the break even level, right? Otherwise, fuck it. I'm not going to take the loss. not until I sell. All right. Anyways, that's privacy coins for today. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Actually, we're on total crypto market cap. Why not? Let's just stay here on total cap. The overall cryptocurrency has been seeing some moderate headwinds towards price increases. This looks exactly like it's looked before. I mean, it's the fucking same, guys. Like, this looks exactly the same. Let me show you. Oh crap! Can I show you? No, I guess I has the retard, so I'm having problems here. Alt T. Yeah, that's the quick key that I hit Control T. Yeah. Okay. So look, we've got, kind of this like decreasing action here, right? It's actually even a little bit of a bullhorn, a broadening structure. And then what do we have here? We had the same freaking thing, right? Had the exact same thing, where you had this like decreasing broadening structure. Overall, the situation was bullish on the long term, but look at this, March to November. Holy crap. That's like 8 months or something, where price was just steadily down until we finally broke out. So, I mean, it's totally possible. It is 100% possible that this thing could have a very similar structure. Let's drop a horizontal line right there and say that, we'll say that probably you really want to see some kind of, you don't really want to break that horizontal line, and we're actually getting pretty close to it. Although the same thing kind of happened here as well. Let's drop another horizontal line. So we're trying to describe the market right now. I'm not trying to prescribe what must happen. Or what should happen. Usually you want to be descriptive with these lines first and then look for patterns and say, oh, wait, actually, this kind of looks very similar to this kinds of things that we've seen before. And oftentimes these patterns are born of similar market situations, right? We're talking about the aggregate organic action plus the market maker action, the liquidity provider, and the exchanges, and that, like the whole aggregate of everything that's happening in the market. Markets are fraud. That will always be the case. Stop crying about it being fraud. I mean, yes, point it out, right? Obviously talk about it, but don't shake your fist at the clouds, because that won't help you win anything. Just know that markets are fraud. And when you talk about market analysis, you have to do fraud analysis. If you are not doing that, you are not analyzing the full extent of markets. Anyways, blah, blah. So you'll notice here in, when was that? That would have been August. Yeah, there was a liquidation wick here that happened in August last year that took you back to that previous sort of not all-time high, was it? Yeah, it was a previous all-time high. That took you back to a local swing high, right? So again, we could see a liquidation wick that challenges this area, that maybe freaks people out on these lines you've drawn, crushes a couple of these lines, and then comes right back, right? So this is a possibility that could happen. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if that's not more and more probable, given the similarities of the pattern, and given the fact that there's like this general malaise. Everyone's like, well, what's going to be the thing? Like, what's going to push the crypto higher? We thought we were going to get the strategic reserve, and okay, we got a really cool executive order that you're allowed to P2P, but and also with stablecoins. I think it's just a slight side commentary here. I think it is funny that the number 2 bullet was basically stable coins, and then the P2P stuff was like, oh, and by the way, y'all can also do P2P as well. But we're gonna do our stable coins no matter what, right? So or backdoor, quasi, pseudo CBDC, etc. So anyways, that's kind of a mental point, right? Don't you think the P2P stuff should have come first, and then like, oh, and we're also going to do stable coins because we're happy players in the market. We just no. Anyways, maybe I'm making too much of that, but little things sometimes communicate big things. Okay. Sometimes, not always, right? Don't take that too far. Every joke has some truth to it. Okay, so anyways, yeah, we're looking at total crypto market cap. This thing is having problems at the moment, but okay, Bitcoin is also showing some representative issues there. But you'll notice Bitcoin, we're on the 4 hour here. Let's go to the daily for apples to apples comparison. So you'll notice that Bitcoin is actually, it doesn't have that sort of descending broadening structure. It actually has more of a stable kind of flat pattern here, right, where it's sort of occupying this channel. It's kind of still trying to ride the overall trend line here for the crypto markets that happened starting from the bottom. This is a beautiful, beautiful line. It's so beautiful that it could even be fantastic, and it's now becoming prescriptive, guys. This line right here, I think, is somewhat prescriptive for the markets at the moment, because there's just so many people that would know what this line is, and the market just wants to keep following that trend line, if for no other reason than you really want to maintain that trend line to maintain at least the organic belief in crypto, right? If you're a big bag holder, if you're a liquidity provider, if you're a market maker trying to unload as much crypto that you printed from ASICs for like 10 years, you don't want to let the price drop too low. Typically, you want to like keep, especially in a bull market scenario, you want to keep that keep those good vibes flowing. I mean, you can liquidate people with wicks, but you don't want to create too much disaster unless it's part of some broader disaster, and you're like, oh well, it wasn't Bitcoin's fault, it was just the macro crash, right? Okay, anyway, so you'll notice that on the lower time frames here, going to the 4 hour, we're losing a lot of volatility, right? Bitcoin has dropped a significant amount of volatility. I would expect some big move to happen here. Maybe not immediately, but I think we're getting pretty close to some big move one direction or the other. You'll notice that as time drags on, this band structure right here only becomes more and more powerful, right? It becomes more and more difficult to break that band structure. So when you see wicks down like this, you have to say, hey, that's probably a liquidation. And now, even if we see a wick up like that, you might have to ask yourself, is that a fake out, right? Could that be a fake out? So at this moment, just know that prices are settling themselves into this like stable regime. And the more that they settle themselves into a stable regime, yes, you know that you're getting closer to like a spring-loaded action where something's going to break and move one direction or the other. But also know that could, much like the macro crash, that could take longer than you expect. And to just know that in those kinds of profiles, the swing trading, selling the local highs and buying the local bottoms is kind of like is kind of a place that you can make more money doing. You don't in a trending market, that's not as much. You wouldn't make as much money doing that. You could actually lose quite a lot. So, and then of course, once that stable trend breaks, you can actually get. So set your stops tight is what I'm saying, right? Like don't be going for wide loose stop losses, or or even better, letting your liquidation point, your margin call, be your stop loss. Okay, here's the Z-scores. Notice Monero is doing much better than everything else, actually, including Bitcoin, in terms of the Z-scores, in terms of its own previous past performance relative to its own moving average and standard deviation. What's doing the worst? Bcash. Bcash is doing the worst down here. We won't spend too much time seeing who else is competing to be the worst, but Monero right now is winning. We tend to do that, right? When the markets are stably kind of floating downwards, Monero tends to overperform, right? Monero catches up when things are boring. They don't ever want Monero to pump and be exciting when nothing else is pumping, right? They typically want to give back those gains. And I think they play this game, right? We've talked about the price suppression of the fractional reserve for a long time. They maxed out the fractional reserve, so they have to do other things, and they use market psychology, and they do that with gold as well. Okay, let's go to the macro and take a look what's happening here. Nothing really that interesting, except for gold is doing quite well. The reverse repos, which are money parked at the Fed with the Fed overnight by big financial institutions, continues to fall. We set some new lows this week. Only about 100 billion left. At one point, there was only about 80 billion left in the reverse repos. So again, that's money that can hypothetically go into risk. That doesn't mean it has to. Oil being funny, pretending like it's going to break out of our pleb lines and then actually not breaking out. But, again, with the wave magic, that kind of helps us to see that. So we're moving the pleb lines now. You can actually see that this really just kind of looks, like an asset that's sort of trending in between the nearest local bands, right? The nearest daily bands. So, yeah, I mean, this thing, it definitely seems to be downtrending overall. Hypothetically, we can turn back on the pleb lines, and yeah, I mean, oil keeps trying to get back into this zone. It feels like what did it do? It had a fake out, above the pleb lines and then came back down into this zone again. So, yeah, I mean, again, oil is one of those triggers we're looking for. If oil starts crashing, right? If oil starts falling out of its trend, if it starts showing very clear negative indications, that's a sign that the macro crash is probably getting really close. Like we're talking weeks at that point. So far, it hasn't come. So, we're not gonna fret about that too much. But yeah, this is, hey guys, for the last 6 months, this has been a very good lesson for me and for everybody that's been listening. These macro movements can really take a long time to play out, right? So I'll keep that in mind the next time we end up in a situation where the patterns play out like this. It could be another 5, 6, maybe even 10 years before something like this same pattern structure in terms of bonds and macro crash. It could be a long time before that happens again, right? But that's an important thing we'll need to remember. Dollar index seems to be relatively stable. Again, this is a fairly bullish chart pattern at this moment. It seems to be stabilizing. It hasn't like fully convincingly broken out, but if this thing starts moving towards the upside again, especially if we start getting into this zone right there, that's a sign that Dixie's about to start going. And if Dixie starts going again, I'm going to start getting a lot more concerned about hypothetical macro crashes on the horizon. Actually, not on the horizon, like being close by. Gold set a new all-time high this week, so that's pretty cool. You'll notice, so we actually talked about this. We said, hey, gold is actually preparing to move up again. The fact that gold continues moving up here, even as everything else is showing this general malaise, is a sign that, again, we're probably not at the top, guys. It's difficult to think that this is the top of the crypto markets. But as we talked about, we kind of expect to occupy this sort of zone, right? We sort of expect gold now to try and sort of do this kind of action here. Let's go to the longer term charts. Oh, sorry, let me erase everything. Let's go to the longer term charts because I want to show you this purple lines here, right? So you've got, dreams within dreams. You've got lines within lines, programs, hacking programs. Yeah, so we've got the purple line here at the top, and that's a much longer purple line. Again, this is an acceleration metric over your accelerate. Yeah. It's effectively an acceleration metric, something comparable to that regarding your standard deviation. So in other words, when the blue lines, when your standard deviation starts moving, the purple line starts showing you how fast that line is moving. And that really, it's incredible how much I've seen this work. It shouldn't work. Like no one's looking at this. No one has this. I honestly think I invented this concept. Maybe some like other person out there doing like some stuff, and I've just never seen it. I have never seen, and I've tried to find it, but I've never seen anyone do this like derivative of standard deviation and not in a non-arbitrary, non-multiplier fashion. Everyone uses the 2, 3, 4 standard deviation, but it's arbitrary. Anyways, blah blah. So yeah, you'll notice that these purple lines from 2011, these purple bands are long-term purple bands that were set from the peak in 2011 going all the way back. In fact, we could go to the monthly here and weekly, monthly. We can go to the monthly here and you can see what I mean. And in fact, it's kind of crazy. Gold is now breaking out of this rising wedge structure. Like this is a very clear breakout. And yeah, maybe it's a little bit harder to see on the monthly, but yeah. So this is back here. This is 2011 right there. So yeah, this band structure, I mean, it's just bullish. Probably that's bullish for inflation too, because that's what gold does. It keeps up with inflation. So like this could be inflation bullish right now. Anyways, yeah. I expect gold to continue running here for some time frame, for some time period. And that's a good sign to us that the gains are still on the table. Crypto is still going to perform. NASDAQ and stock markets basically trending sideways. They really, I think that overall, I think it's so psychologically prominent in people's minds that the stock market is basically at its 1929 and .com levels of I don't know, of performance or whatever, of hype and whatever. Yeah, there's another thing that happened here that we need to talk about. So I've said for a long time, NVIDIA is not a bubble. NVIDIA is not a bubble. In fact, I said that here at this line, at this vertical line right there. I said NVIDIA is not a bubble because it's now a defense stock. Well, a lot of things have kind of been happening in the AI sector. And these developments aren't necessarily positive bullish for the stock market, actually. It is possible that these developments, if they continue, how can we say this? There's a lot of hype around AI, okay? There's a lot of real stuff around AI that's super important that's happening, but there's also a lot of hype. And this is true of anything. This is like Bitcoin when it hits these massive blow-off tops and then falls, it takes years to regain. It's like Bitcoin is a great idea and distributed ledgers are a fantastic idea. And the stock market itself, like owning a share of a company and trading equities of ownership stakes in companies that are useful to society, These are great ideas. And so great ideas often get leveraged to the hilt, right? They get hyped up, they get max value extraction, they pump to ungodly levels, right? And then they crash after that bubble becomes too much. So I say all that to say that just keep in mind AI is the same thing. It is extremely useful. I use it to such great effect and improvement of my own life with these LLMs. But that doesn't mean it's not overhyped, right? For a long time, NVIDIA was the primary. They had their moat. Everything was great. And then there's this DeepSeek R1 and even R0 that came out. It's like a fundamentally different way of training a network. They're actually, to give you a really, really quick little like tiny thing, it effectively allows them to train the logical, like the smarter fine-tuned training where LLMs simulate a type of reasoning ability. It allows them to train it on mathematical problems and then do that feedback in an automated fashion, which is very interesting. And it's how the Chinese, this Chinese group was able to basically produce a reasoning model that performs in the neighborhood, right, of the latest models on much lower hardware. You know, the devil's always in the details, and I always wonder, like, how much is this overhyped? Could it, is it really performing at certain levels? One thing that AIs tend to do is train on the last set of AI problems, like the evaluation. How good is this AI? They tend to train on all those problems that came before. It's like studying all the SAT questions, that you've seen before. So they do really good when, you release a new AI and then you that was trained on the problems that were used to evaluate older AIs. Okay, but anyways. It does seem like there's something happening here. And then there's an Apple architecture in which they don't, their memory isn't just, it's not GPU memory. It's not VRAM like NVIDIA has VRAM. Their RAM space is shared with the CPU and the GPU simultaneously, making the CPU architectures a lot more manageable. And so people have been stacking, I don't know, I can't remember, Mac Minis or Apple Mini, whatever. They've been stacking them because of that memory architecture that apparently allows you to really, really beef up that VRAM in an easy way, or what is effectively would otherwise be your VRAM. I know I'm kind of long in the tooth here on this whole explanation. The point is that with all that context in mind, NVIDIA has been having troubles because when DeepSeek came out, people said, hey, maybe we don't need these massive NVIDIAs, the H100 clusters of 100,000, 500,000, or 100,000 or 500,000 of them to train AIs. Maybe there's better architectures. And honestly, so much of this bull market has been built on the AI hype and obviously the tech hype. We could be looking at a situation here that could actually be the trigger. Like, this is more than anything that I've seen before said, hey, maybe this could be a trigger, whatever. This is more than any of those things higher up in my mind. That is, does this signal the top? Does this signal the beginning of the lead into the macro crash? I think that there's a very real possibility of that. I think that time is going to have to tell here because I am not super educated on this AI stuff and the architectures. I couldn't even call myself an advanced pleb in this context, right? Like, I just keep track of it a little bit. I try to keep up. I don't know how to tell heads from tails in a lot of cases in terms of like what's real and what's not. So it's like, I'm like, cool, maybe, right? I'm a skeptic. I don't disbelieve, but I'm not a believer either. So NVIDIA seems to be recovering here a little bit. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, that's enough on NVIDIA. I just wanted to provide you guys with some like larger general context there for that. Let's see. One interesting chart. I always forget what this chart is called. This is the spread between corporate bonds and government bonds. And when people believe the market is never going to crash and it's always going to be amazing and sunshine and rainbows forever, that spread collapses closer and closer to zero. I shouldn't say zero, really. It drops lower and lower because everyone thinks that corporations, are going to be totally fine and their bonds are totally safe. So, corporations like have to, they have to offer, or they can't offer higher rates. They can't get higher rates as a result. Anyways, this always goes down in the lead up to like some kind of crisis, but it can go down for a long time. All right. That's just an interesting chart. Just wanted to show that to you guys. Oh, bonds. So bonds did some big peak. They're kind of coming back down. No major volatility here. So nothing concerning happening in the bond market. We did get some unemployment numbers, and this is actually SOM rule. This is breaking. It's not breaking the SOM rule, but it is starting to look like the unemployment index is starting to break the SOM rule. We have now had, so we had this like big run up, right? and then it kind of leveled off now and is coming down. So since July of last year, basically unemployment leveled off and is starting to drop again. And that's the reverse of actually a macro crash, because usually the SOM rule, as it's called, which I actually discovered, after the fact of recognizing the pattern. But yeah, usually when unemployment starts spiking, it's like, hey, recession incoming soon. Unemployment starts spiking, recession incoming soon. Unemployment spiking because we shut down the economy for a cold. The economy caught a cold. Now we've had the unemployment spiked, but now it's actually holding on. It's holding on better than it ever has really in the past. So the other thing that we said is, hey, this is coming from like record low unemployment, almost like 3.4%. 4% is relatively low, modest unemployment. So we said, hey, maybe this is just still correction to normal. That's just a counterpoint for the macro crash thesis. I just wanted to toss that out there for you guys. I think we have a super chat here. We have Anon. I don't know if Tux, if you want to throw this super chat up there. We have Anon tipped 10 cents. He says, win Lambo. You get your Lambo when you tip more than 10 cents, bro. No, I'm just kidding. We appreciate it. That was a joke. 100% joke. Thanks for the tip. We appreciate it. Yeah, win Lambo. I don't know. Probably within like 6 years. Hey, real G's know that it's not about the Lambo. It's about the airplane, right? Get your airplane and then fly around on your own dime, fly around on your own.
Lottie, you have a plane, don't you?
I do not have an airplane, but I do have my pilot's license. I haven't flown in forever because I can't rent an aircraft here in Mexico. I can't rent a Mexican registered aircraft with my U.S. pilot's license.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is. So I'm not current at all. I'm like way out of my currencies. So maybe I'll download Microsoft Flight Sim, spin up a VM, and get like a whole, you've seen those guys with the setup with the multiple monitors to simulate like it looks like you're in an airplane. Probably I need a separate room to do that. Just have like and then I can at least maintain my proficiency that way. But we'll see. I mean, at some points I probably will buy my own airplane. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of like back and forth reasons to buy your airplane, and it's like a boat, right? People buy a boat and their happiest day is the day they bought it and the day they sold it. So I'm trying to understand, would I use it enough to really justify it? In America, it's easy because you can go halvesies, or you can split an airplane, with like 2-4 people or whatever, and then that drops those costs and all that stuff. So anyways, yeah, anyone in Mexico want to go halvesies on an airplane with me? All right. Airplanes and all. I think that's it, guys. Yeah, we've covered everything. Monero transactions. I don't know. Just to circle back to Monero, I always forget this until the very end. Monero transactions doing well, right? Like we had dropped down to 25K for a little bit, but now we're oscillating around 30K again. You got to pump those numbers up, guys. Those are rookie numbers. So, yep. Do continue to send us 10 cents, please, with the Monero chats, and continue to use XMR Bazaar to buy and sell all of your stuff to make the new Craigslist, the better Craigslist, the private Craigslist. That's all I got, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Body.
Thank you, sir.
I guess it looks like Doug, I think you're in the backstage.
Oh, hey, I also wanted to say you don't need a tuxedo. Just wear a shirt with the tuxedo, that would be even better.
I actually think I have a shirt that's got Tux the Penguin on it. That's got a bow tie. It was from Linux Fest a couple of years ago. I'm going to see if I can find that.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, if I was you, I would not want to have to put on the formal business attire upstairs while maintaining the party downstairs for the live stream. You know what I mean?
Hey, I mean, some people do that.
Maybe you could just put on a jacket and like a little clip tie, like on your shirt, but just like, you don't have to like wear a formal dress shirt. I mean, you don't have to do shit, bro. You do what you want. Oh, we have another super chat here.
Yeah, another one. Yep.
All right. KSNXN tipped 12 cents. Can the existence of reverse repos completely nullify the performance of bond patterns in the event preceding a macro crash? I'm not totally sure what you mean by that. Hang on, let me think about this for a second. I don't want to just say some bullshit. I doubt it could completely nullify patterns. Maybe. No, I don't think so, because let's go ahead and take a look at the bonds here. Let's go back to the bonds, and then look at what the pattern was. So, it actually. So we had the rising. So let's just off the top of my head right here, right? We had the pattern of rising interest rates, right, going into the bear market. But the bear market wasn't a macro crash, right? This was the macro crash. Now, I believe reverse repos existed before this macro crash. Let's go ahead and take a look at it, though. Let's go back here. Reverse repos. Scroll. Yeah, so reverse repos have existed actually since 2004, right? And then it's interesting, in the lead up to the macro crash, to the when the economy caught a cold in 2020, they had actually like zeroed out. And I guess that makes sense because overall the markets were bull, right? So why are you going to keep money with the Fed when you can invest that in risk and get a better return? And then leading into the macro crash of hell, even then, let's take a look here. So, okay, yeah, there was a spike, but that was synonymous with the macro crash, right? There was a spike up to about 300 billion into reverse repos when the market crashed in 2020, but that wasn't a leading indicator actually. But it was a leading indicator of the bear market. So, bro, that gives me something to think about actually. Could it be that reverse repos are a lagging or synonymous, or either a lagging or simultaneous indicator with a macro crash, but are a leading indicator of a bear market? Hypothetically, that's, again, those are just like off the cuff brainstorming thoughts. Don't take them too much, but that's a great question, man. That's like one of the best questions I think that I've seen here. It could be a factor. It could definitely be a factor, but the fact that reverse repos have existed for this long would tend to say it's less of a factor. But the fact that reverse repos got used so much during the bear market could make it more of a factor, right? So I wouldn't say absolutely nullify. That would be going too far, but it is definitely something to think about. Thanks for that question, man.